All right, everybody, it is time for another Dresden Files reading vlog. I am about to start Skin Game. I just looked up the summary for it and I am already excited and nervous. I feel like I've been excited and nervous for many books now, but we are getting Nicodemus back, which I think that he is a fantastic villain and I'm really looking forward to that. And there's just a lot of fallout from the last book, like Molly, for example, that I am looking forward to exploring. So I'm getting ready to get started. I'm going to try to break this up into like even chunks of chapters like I did with Changes, but we'll see what happens, how caught up in the story I become. And we'll see if it's as much of an emotional spiral as it was last time. All right, so I have read the first 10 chapters of Skin Game, and that is how I'm going to try to break this vlog up, is in groups of 10. But I'm really liking it. I like the setup. I knew I was going to like this when it included Nicodemus because I enjoy him as a villain. I like hearing more about the coins and like that part of my brain that just can't let go of Lash. Every time that those characters are in a book, I'm like, oh, are we gonna get something more? I feel like I did not get the closure that I wanted. I feel like Butcher introduced a character that I felt was going to be like a lot more important and was going to have a lot more longevity over the course of the series. So I have not let go of the hope that she is going to return, but that will be like my random thing to fixate on throughout the reading of this book. But other than that, I have enjoyed the setup. Mab, as always, is a total badass and terrifying whenever she comes on the page. I like that we are openly acknowledging that this is not only a heist, but also an opportunity to try to kill the people you are working with at the earliest convenience. And I like the recurring characters. So one of the things that's fun about Dresden, because it takes place over such a long period of time and it takes place in such a small geographical area, is that you do get these recurring characters, both in terms of like the heroes or the secondary protagonists, but also the villains. Like they keep popping up in different ways. And Butcher has shown us, I think through Ghost Story, that people that you felt like were not redeemable during the series, like we are getting this through Harry's lens, and we know that he is capable of shifting his opinion on people. So I always like it when there are recurring characters because Butcher does a really good job of developing them and letting us see them through a different angle. So looking forward to that in this part of the book as well. One thing that will bother me, this is such a silly thing to care about, but as Harry and Murphy do their like will they, won't they dance and things progress in that direction, I do not like that he now calls her Karen. And I know that her name is Karen, so it makes sense that he calls her Karen. But to me, she is just Murphy. I do not feel like she fits as a Karen. And I just, every time that he calls her that, I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you calling her that? And I know it's, the closeness and now they're on a first name basis, et cetera, but I don't like it. She is Murphy or nothing, but that is a small qualm. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't have any big like theories or thoughts on what is going to happen, except I will echo the sentiments of Anna Valmont in chapter 10, which I just finished, that, as she said, she has completed many jobs since she last saw Harry Dresden, none of which went as poorly as this one. So we can at least expect Harry to be an absolute danger magnet and for disaster to follow him wherever he goes. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. My pre-bed reading got me up to chapter 21. And the next 10 chapters I also really liked. So the action is like moving along at a fast pace. This new character, Gray, is very intriguing. The shapeshifter. I am interested to see where the story is going to go with him. But it all felt like pretty standard yet enjoyable Dresden fare. I'm having a great time reading it. And then we got to chapter 20. And Michael. I just got to read a whole chapter of Michael, which there has been no Michael. Like essentially since he got injured, he has been absent from the series, which makes sense because he's not in the thick of it anymore. And obviously he's been mentioned in passing in terms of like Maggie and everything, but I did not realize how I needed some Michael Carpenter back in my life until it was given to me. And like no one better to give Harry like the best wake-up call for being the like I say self-absorbed, but I don't mean it in like, I don't think that Harry is like a a malignant, self-absorbed person. Like, I don't think that it comes from a like damaging narcissistic place. I think it comes from, I have the weight of the world on my shoulders all the time, and I have been forced to take care of myself forever, and so this is how I view the world. But he needed that wake-up call to realize that people do in fact care about him, and that he may have been harshly judging his friends. And like, who better to deliver that but Michael Carpenter? And I just, like, it's just so, even when he is disciplining Harry, essentially, like he's being the dad for Harry right now, even when that is happening, you just feel so nice to have him on the page. And I hope that that is not the end of his involvement in this book. I do fear that maybe it is, because we're obviously going to get into the heist and everything else from here. But also, like, sad to see that he seems to not know what has happened with Molly. And I do find the fracture between Molly and her parents very realistic, in terms of like a very strict household with a mom and a young girl who obviously are very strong, and they have very specific like visions and goals for their lives, and those don't line up. So I think that that's a really realistic portrayal of how even in a household that is clearly like very filled with a love, there can be that tension. So I like that, but it's really sad to see Michael not know what is going on in his daughter's life and think like, oh yeah, she's doing really great, I just saw her. Like, oh, sadness. No one should be allowed to make Michael Carpenter sad ever, but I digress. I'm just really happy that I got that chapter, and now I'm looking forward to epic heist shenanigans. It has not been 10 chapters. It has been 3 chapters, because I just finished chapter 23. And I needed to talk, because I had thought that this parasite in Harry's head was Lashiel because of the timing and because she had disappeared so quickly and everything. Well, I guess technically I thought it was Lash, not Lashiel, but no, it is the spirit of intellect, a Lash and Harry combo. This is wild. Did not expect, and now I need to know. I need to know what is going to happen. I am at chapter 30. I have not finished it. I will just show you on my Kindle. I'm just gonna say right now that what I think is gonna happen better not happen. I had a lot of things to say about these last 10 chapters. And so I'm finished chapter 30. I genuinely thought Michael was gonna die. Like, that is the most terrified I have been in a Dresden book ever. And now all of the really, insightful things that I had to say about the last 10 chapters are gone, because the emotional turmoil of reading that chapter was too much for me. Like, I had things to say about Murphy and her taking up the sword and how cool that was, and then how she was able to avoid being manipulated, and then, it was overcome by her love and feelings. And, I had like, trust me, like, I had things to say that were interesting, and, now it's all gone. But, like, thank God I have never... Michael is safe, so I am safe to keep reading. And I will try to do better to have coherent updates over the next 10 chapters. So I have made it through chapter 40. And so before I talk, like, really the topic of this vlog should be like, how many different places in my house can I possibly read a book? But I always take over my parents' apartment when they are not home as my office, so that I can work in like relative quiet. So that is where I am today. But the last 10 chapters were really good. I almost took a break to come after chapter 32, because the scenes between Harry and Maggie were like too much. Like, it was an overpowering combination of really precious and heartbreakingly sad. Her saying, "Are you going to be my dad now?" Like, I might never recover. I might never recover from this book in general, but there's so many emotions. But after that, Michael. You know, having Michael back on a heist is all that I could have asked for, really. So I am happy to have that. I did not see until like the very last second Nicodemus sacrificing his child, which I guess explains maybe why the mom was so mad the whole time and trying to put a stop to it. And now, like, I'm surprised that I even took a break to talk here, because now we are going to see Harry talk to Hades. And like, I don't even know what to expect. Do I expect them to fight or become friends, or who knows? Like with Harry, you never actually know, which I guess is like part of the fun of the series, but I'm looking forward to it. Also, what I appreciate about Dresden, one of the many things I appreciate about Dresden is like just how Dresden it remains, despite like the changing popularity, the increasing scope of the series. Like I can count on Jim Butcher to make sure that he uses the 4 names of the artists after whom the Ninja Turtles are named. And I can be confident that all of the little mini parkours are going to add up into one epic parkour. And then he delivers on that. And I don't know, because like in the beginning of Dresden, I thought like some parts were funny, but I didn't really think that anything was one of the like funniest series ever or anything. But the longer I go on, the more fun I think they are. And I wonder if like part of it is just like Jim Butcher is a giant nerd. I am a giant nerd. I'm sure many of us that love Dresden are giant nerds. So like that appeals. But then sometimes I also feel like I can see Jim Butcher like writing this and just cackling to himself because he thinks it's so funny. And the fact that I feel like he believes that some of these lines are so funny makes it funny for me, because finding the things that you say or the things that you write hilarious is something that I always find funny. Like when comedians crack themselves up with their own jokes, I laugh as much at that as I do like a genuinely funny joke. So I don't know. I've been brainwashed by the humor in Dresden, and I am really pumped to read the end of this book. So I'd say probably the next time I come back, unless something wild happens, will be after I have finished. I'm done. Butters, the only thing I can say, holy Jedi Butters. Like what more could you want out of life? To be honest, through a lot of this book, I had thought like this was going to be a 4.5-star book for me. Like the last couple have been 5-star books for me, and I thought that I really liked the setup. I really liked the heist. I liked all of that stuff. But it felt a little bit more like early Dresden, where there's kind of the situation of the week and you need to solve it, and there was less of that like underlying world building, underlying lore, like the big revelations that we found out in the last book. None of that was present, and it was a more intimate story. And I liked it, but the things that had kind of elevated some of the other Dresden books up to 5 stars, I was like, well, I think I'm feeling more of like a 4.5 here. But how anyone ever could read a book that had Jedi Butters using the holy sword to defeat, or I guess like chase away, Nicodemus, like it is the most amazing scene. It is one of my favorite scenes ever in a book that I have read, and it's just so good. Oh, I loved it so much. I also really liked the humor in this book. Like, I know that it is very much a product of like the time that it was written, but the parkour jokes just kept getting funnier. Like, they did not get less funny. When Gray picked up Dresden and said parkour and threw him up in the air so he could land on his back, I was like, what is this? It was amazing. And I really liked like the little like sassy dry lines that we got from Gray at the end, also really good. To be honest, I thought that Gray was gonna be Loki, which I guess doesn't make sense because he's more mischievous. It wouldn't make sense for him to stick to his agreements that well. But when he was doing all the transforming, especially when we found out who was the person that recommended him to Dresden, I was like, is this who that is? But no, but I still thought that the reveal was really cool. I thought that he was interesting as a character. I wonder if he will pop up again. But it was just like the end of that book. I could not give it anything less than 5 stars for like pure Butters factor and like the emotional turmoil of Michael, which I still feel like I'm not recovered from because I was so scared when that happened. The moments between Harry and his daughter were precious in this book, and there was a lot of really nice character moments, and I think that those are just as important as the underlying world building. So Skin Game, absolutely phenomenal book. 5 stars from me. I really, really enjoyed it. I think from here, I'm going to be going on to the short stories. I know that they're obviously the one about the Yeti or Yeti-like creature. Probably should have read that before this, but I was just in such a, I just wanted to get in. But I'm going to read the short stories now and then finish up the final 2 books, which I think are like one big story that was split. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's almost nothing left. It's so sad, so hard to get through, and there's still so much that I want to know. Like, are these 2 books going to give me what I want to find out about Molly? Probably not, but I need more Molly. There's not enough Molly, and it's going to be really hard to pivot away from the Carpenters again because I really love it when they're in books, and there was a lot of Michael in this one. I feel like the others are not going to have the amount of Michael that I would like to have in my life. And hopefully, one thing that I am hopeful is that this will mean, excuse me, that Harry is going to go back into his regular life a little bit more. He doesn't have to be on Demon Reach. Oh my gosh, I didn't even talk about baby Harry Lashiel. I mean, I talked about it when it first came up, but Molly extracted it from his head. So now we need to find out what is going to happen. Like, is this going to be Bob's apprentice? I feel like Bob's going to get a friend finally, but I'm interested to see what happens there. There's just a lot of really cool stuff. And this is what's sad about making it to the end of the series, is that along with everybody else who loves Dresden, I'm going to be stuck in this stasis of wondering what we're going to get and when we're going to get it. But this was incredible. I am really happy I started this series. It is fast becoming one of my favorite fantasy series, and I cannot wait to get started on the next book. So I apologize for all of the various angles and the difficulty of like technological things filming these vlogs, but hopefully you enjoyed it. I wear my emotions openly, so I feel like you got a pretty good assessment of how I felt throughout the book, and I am planning to do this again for the next couple because I really like it. It's fun to get all your thoughts out there in the open, and I will see you with another video soon. Bye.